It was week 18 in primetime football, a division rivalry with the division on the line, the number one seed on the line. This was about as big as regular season games get, and Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers were on a hot streak. They had a 6-game win streak and were averaging over 42 points per game over their last 3 weeks. The Seahawks were coming off of a 6-game winning streak of their own, including that wild victory over the Rams. The stakes could not be any higher going into this matchup that would decide who wins the best division in football. But once it started, it was completely lopsided. The Seahawks offense was by no means completely dominant, but they did run the ball very well and were able to put up 13 points. But that's not the story of the game. That 49ers offense, which was used to scoring 30 or 40 points, was completely shut down. I don't care what stats you look at. The Niners scored just 3 points. They only had 173 total yards and only managed to get 9 first downs. All 3 of those stats are the lowest in the entire Kyle Shanahan era in San Francisco. Worse than any game with Brian Hoyer, who they benched, worse than any game with Jimmy G, who they eventually cut, or even with Trey Lance, who they traded after only starting 4 games. This performance was worse than anything that those guys did. So how did the Seahawks accomplish this? Well, it all comes down to the most exciting thing in football: run fits. Okay, maybe that's not what everyone thinks exciting football looks like, but trust me, this, and this were all made possible by the Seahawks dominating at this. So let's jump in. Stopping the run at the NFL level is a complicated thing. Ensuring that you can contain the ball and adapt to a wide variety of blocking schemes that the offenses throw at you requires having excellent players, scheme, and technique throughout the entire defense. And from a schematic perspective, the defensive play caller does have a lot of control over how much they want to focus on stopping the run. Here's a hypothetical to really illustrate why the Seahawks defense was so dominant against the 49ers. Let's pretend that you're struggling to stop the run. There's a couple of clear things that you could do to help your team out in that situation. The first is pretty obvious, which is to just load the box. Forget about the 2 high safety coverages that are in vogue in the NFL and get that extra safety down into the box and shut down the run. And this is very commonly used across the league. Even coaches who love 2 high safeties have plenty of ways to get that guy down in the box, whether that is rotations, blitzes, or just different alignments. Now, this option does have downsides. You are going to be limited in the coverages that you can run. If your safety is down in the box and is a run defender first and foremost, then how is he going to be the deep safety in cover 2 or cover 4? With that 2 deep safety look, you have so many more options for how you can rotate and disguise your intentions, and the entire playbook is opened up to you. So maybe you don't want to get that extra guy down in the box. Now, your other clear option is that you could change your personnel. So much about stopping the run is having players who can take on and win blocks, and for the most part, the bigger your guys are, the more success you'll have with that. In the NFL, you traditionally try to match every wide receiver with a corner. So if the offense has 3 wide receivers, the defense usually responds with a nickel defense, which means 2 safeties and 3 corners. If the offense swaps in a tight end for a wide receiver, then the defense would match that by switching to base personnel, still having those 2 corners to match the 2 receivers on offense, but bringing in an extra linebacker. Simply put, defenses try to match size for size, but if you are struggling against the run, you could change your personnel. This isn't done a ton in the NFL for reasons we'll get to in just a second, but on this play from week 1, we can see the Packers are in 11 personnel, which means 1 running back, 1 tight end, and 3 receivers. But the Lions are matching this with base personnel and only having 2 corners on the field. And this idea has downsides of its own because now you're also limited in your coverages because you can't ask a linebacker or a safety to guard a receiver in man coverage. Even on this play from the Lions defense, we can see the downsides as this linebacker has no chance out here on a receiver in space. So as with anything in the NFL, there are always trade-offs with any schematic decision. But if you are really getting run over, these are some of the go-to solutions for defensive play callers. So which of those solutions did the Seahawks use to shut down the Niners' ground attack? The 49ers only had 10 designed rushing attempts for 32 yards. That is an incredible defensive performance. So surely the Seahawks used some of these tactics that we talked about earlier. Well, let's see if they were loading the box. Per my charting, the Seahawks had a light box rate of 80% on the 49ers' rushing attempts. That means that they were sitting back with two high safeties completely removed from the immediate run fit, and they still shut down the run. What a light box means is that the Seahawks had as many defenders in the box as the offense had blockers. If the 49ers could just win their one-on-one blocks, no one would be free to tackle the ball. Just make your blocks and the ball should be sprinting into the secondary immediately. But somehow that never happened. Okay, but maybe the Seahawks were overmatching their personnel. Maybe they were really focused on getting as many big-bodied linebackers and defensive linemen in there to stop the run. Well, they didn't do that either. In fact, they did the opposite. When the 49ers were in 11 personnel, the Seahawks only matched with nickel 39% of the time. For the rest of those snaps, the Seahawks went to dime personnel with 4 corners to match the 3 receivers from the 49ers. And when the Niners went to their heavier personnel groupings, either bringing on an extra tight end or a fullback or an extra tight end and a fullback, the Seahawks still played 100% nickel personnel against those heavier looks. Here's the headline. Instead of being bigger than the 49ers, the Seahawks only matched personnel like most of the NFL does 17% of the time. Instead of going heavier the other 83% of those plays, they played with a lighter personnel grouping than the 49ers. And they still stopped the run. The Seahawks played with light boxes and light personnel. Everything that they did suggests that they should have been completely run over and embarrassed by this Niners ground game. And the 49ers were the ones who got embarrassed. And we're going to get back to exactly how the Seahawks were able to do this, but let's start by talking about why this matters so much. Kyle Shanahan is a heck of a coach. The 49ers have always had excellent offenses under Shanahan, and that is because of his play calling. More than any other play caller in the NFL, I think Shanahan has the best understanding of tendencies and is in a league of his own at predicting coverages and calling effective coverage beaters. That's why over the past 5 seasons, 49ers quarterbacks have always been in the top 10 of yards per attempt, even though none of Shanahan's quarterbacks have been your prototypical big arm guys. He just schemes open explosive plays, even if his players don't look like explosive players. But how are you supposed to design coverage beaters when you have no idea what coverage the defense is in? All night, Mike Macdonald had no restrictions on what he could call. He was the one who was dialing up offensive beaters, not the other way around. Because the defense was able to stop the run with a light box and light personnel, he could run any coverage that he wanted at any time. Mike Macdonald didn't have to worry about stopping the run, so he could focus on taking away this passing game. That is why this all worked. Let's take a look at this series, which perfectly sums up what we're talking about. This is the Niners' first time with the football right after the Seahawks turned the ball over on downs, deep in 49ers territory. The Niners come out in 21 personnel. That means they have 2 backs, 1 tight end, and 2 receivers. Again, traditionally, this would be matched with base personnel and get 3 linebackers on the field to stop that heavier formation, but the Seahawks go for a lighter nickel personnel. The Seahawks also play with 2 safeties, which again, that's not helping your numbers in the box at all. This is a light box and light personnel, and this puts your run defense in a very tricky spot, but the Seahawks make it look easy. And there's really 2 big reasons why the Seahawks can get away with this. Byron Murphy has been a beast against the run all year, and we get a great example here. The 49ers are trying to run inside zone, and they have this combo block coming right at Murphy. They want to use 2 players to move him off the ball and create space for McCaffrey. But that plan falls apart. Murphy drops down with his corkscrew technique. He completely stonewalls this double team, and then he's able to jump around the blockers and help with the tackle. This is absurd run defense, and Murphy has been doing this every single game. And we can also see the other big reason for the Seahawks' success at defending the run in Nick Emanwari. Even though he was drafted and is listed as a safety, Eamon has been playing slot corner for the Seahawks and has been excellent at that position. And while usually a fullback versus a slot corner matchup would be a massive advantage for the offense, Nick Eamon is a massive guy himself and is extremely physical. Eamon overwhelms Juszczyk at the point of attack and joins in on the tackle. Yes, the rest of this defense is extremely well coached against the run, and Ernest Jones has been as excellent as ever, but the reason why the Seahawks can get away with being very light against the run, to me that comes down to Byron Murphy and Nick Eamon and the impact that they have had this season. So this is just a 2-yard gain. On the next play, it's 2nd and 8, and the Seahawks are again in a light box with light personnel. And because they're able to stop the run so well, they don't have to get an extra safety down in the box here, and they can play cover 2. This is a conservative coverage, and that forces Purdy to check the ball down for a short gain, and earns the Seahawks a quick 3rd down on this opening drive. And then, as if the Seahawks don't already have all of the advantages in this matchup, they're also able to get away with just going man coverage on 3rd down. Across the board, their coverage is sticky with their excellent secondary, and their pass rush gets in quickly. Even though Purdy is getting this out on time and to his first read, the pressure is almost there when he gets the ball out, and the coverage is very tight on the back end. This is how you become the #1 scoring defense in the league. This is how you limit the hottest offense in the NFL to just 3 points. The Seahawks are #1 in run defense in EPA per rush by a mile, despite the fact that they really don't focus on stopping the run at all. That allows Mike Macdonald to get creative and dictate terms to the offense instead of the other way around. Mike Macdonald and John Schneider have built an incredible unit, and this defense is the reason why the Seahawks are Super Bowl contenders. As a Seahawks fan, it just brings me so much joy to watch this unit go out there and dominate. The players and the scheme are just pairing perfectly right now, and I can't wait to see what they do next. Thanks for watching, and go Hawks.